This fish can outrun a torpedo, slap prey unconscious with its tail, and leap through the sky to escape death. In the ocean, survival isn't just about being fast. It's about being faster than the thing chasing you. And out here, milliseconds decide who lives and who vanishes. From dolphins that hunt like military tacticians to sailfish that slash their prey mid-sprint, this isn't just nature. It's a full-blown speed war, and falling behind means extinction. We'll ride jet streams with sea turtles, witness flying fish launch themselves out of the water like missiles, and watch orcas build waves to knock seals off ice. Every second counts, and no one gets a second chance. But one creature in this race doesn't swim, doesn't bite, and still causes more deaths than any predator here. And it's completely invisible. You'll meet it soon. The ocean is a world of silence and speed, a realm where water shapes everything it touches. Here, in the liquid cradle of Earth's most ancient theater, speed is not just an advantage, it is a religion. It determines who eats, who escapes, who thrives, and who becomes an unfortunate blur in someone else's wake. And so, over millions of years, evolution has not merely encouraged speed. It has become an obsessive sculptor, chiseling bodies into liquid bullets, testing every inch of skin, every angle of fin, until the perfect racers were born. As sunlight fractures across the surface and filters downward in golden shafts, the world beneath it transforms into a high-stakes racetrack, glittering and endless.
A tuna enters the stage first, not with a splash, but with a whisper.
They move with such grace that their 43 miles per hour sprint seems less like exertion and more like a thought. Every line of their body curves with intent. The snout narrows like the nose of a missile. The tail forks into a razor-finned propulsion engine, and the muscles beneath their skin churn like wound-up springs. But the secret lies not just in shape. The tuna, unlike most fish, is warm-blooded, an internal furnace that allows for rapid bursts of movement in cold water, feeding their speed addiction like a jet engine kept constantly idling. And their skin? It's so smooth it feels almost artificial, like brushed aluminum, built to slip through the sea with as little resistance as possible, the hydrodynamic equivalent of cheating. Not far off, another figure carves through the water, but this one doesn't glide, it cuts. A sailfish, shimmering with blues and silvers, darts forward with a flick of its long, slender body. If the tuna is a submarine, the sailfish is a dagger, and the numbers back it. Clocked at speeds nearing 68 miles per hour, the sailfish is often crowned the fastest fish in the sea. But how does it pull off this biological sorcery? The answer lies in a head that tapers like a javelin, a dorsal fin that folds flat like a switchblade, and a trick most sea dwellers could only dream of: skin that controls its own turbulence. Yes, the sailfish's skin secretes microscopic mucus that reduces drag, lubricating its passage like a creature designed to outrun the ocean itself. And when it wants to truly vanish in a flash, it retracts that sail, goes completely streamlined, and rockets forward in a burst so swift that even predators blink and lose it. Then come the dolphins, evolution's smoothest criminals. Unlike the cold-blooded precision of tuna or the slashing velocity of the sailfish, dolphins combine speed with playfulness, intelligence, and a flair for acrobatics. Their bodies are curves upon curves, a living sculpture in motion. But beneath the charm lies a physics lesson of stunning complexity. Their skin isn't just smooth, it's alive. Microscopic ridges along its surface shift under pressure, controlling flow separation and preventing drag. Essentially, dolphins wear a built-in, self-adjusting wetsuit. Every muscle fires in synchronized waves, propelling them with fluid thrust, and their tails, flukes technically, whip not side to side like fish, but up and down, generating lift and push in a way eerily similar to how birds fly. Their blowholes act as biological snorkels, allowing them to breathe without slowing, as if the ocean itself offered them a cheat code for endurance. And yet, for all their differences, these animals share something uncanny, a convergence.
It's as if nature, when faced with the challenge of speed, kept arriving at the same architectural blueprint. Long, narrow heads to slice water, bodies tapering back like arrows, internal propulsion systems powered by densely packed muscles and finely tuned balance. This is convergent evolution, when completely unrelated species evolve similar traits simply because the environment demands it. In the arms race of speed, design is destiny, and the ocean enforces this law with quiet brutality. But evolution doesn't sculpt in straight lines, it experiments.
Sometimes it stumbles upon something unexpected, like the flying fish. Small, silver, and seemingly unimpressive, these creatures hide a trick in their wings. Yes, wings. Or rather elongated pectoral fins that can fan out into gliders. In a mad evolutionary gamble, flying fish sacrifice a bit of swim speed for something radical, the ability to exit the race. When chased, they hit the gas, break the surface, and literally soar above the sea, gliding as far as 200 meters through the air to escape predators. Speed in this case isn't just horizontal, it's three-dimensional. It's a jailbreak into the sky. And while we marvel at these sleek titans of speed, there's another truth lurking just beneath. Being fast comes at a price. High-speed animals burn energy like wildfire. Tuna need to keep moving to breathe. They cannot stop, not even for a moment, or they risk suffocating. Sailfish must constantly patrol for prey to fuel their metabolic furnaces. Dolphins rest only half their brains at a time, keeping the other half alert, always ready to swim, dodge, chase. These creatures have bartered peace for performance. Evolution may grant them speed, but it steals something in return. Sleep, stillness, safety. To be born fast is to live a life that never stops moving. Even stranger, some of these streamlined racers aren't even predators in the traditional sense. Mackerel, bonito, and other lesser-known speedsters use their velocity not to kill, but to avoid being killed. In the open ocean, where there are no hiding places, speed becomes your only shield. The difference between lunch and lunch break is measured in milliseconds. And so, fish that look like mini tunas with similar shapes and features evolve not for aggression, but for desperation. The same design forged in opposite fires, one to hunt, one to flee. The ocean makes no distinction, only speed counts. But if the ocean is sculpting its racers to be faster and faster, one might wonder, where is the limit? Surely physics must intervene. And it does. Water is 800 times denser than air. Every extra mile per hour costs exponentially more effort. Eventually, even nature hits diminishing returns. That's why the sea has no equivalent of a cheetah. Water resists speed with every molecule. So instead, evolution sharpens its blades at the edges. By refining techniques, building smarter bodies, reducing friction at microscopic levels. In this world, speed isn't brute force, it's finesse. And just when you think you've seen the pinnacle of oceanic design, the orca arrives. Not the fastest, but perhaps the most elegant compromise of all. Bigger than all the rest, yet able to reach speeds of 35 miles per hour, the orca isn't shaped like a bullet. It's shaped like a torpedo with purpose. Smooth as a stealth bomber, powered by immense tail muscles and brains that calculate pursuit routes in real time, it is less a sprinter and more a missile with a mission. The ocean never stops testing its racers. Currents shift, prey adapts, rivals evolve. What worked yesterday might cost a life tomorrow. This is not a static design museum. It is a forge, and the fire is always burning. In the blue race, nothing is ever fast enough for long. But while we've met nature's speed machines, we've yet to see how they use that speed. Because in the ocean, being fast is just the beginning. How they wield that speed, how they hunt with it, flee with it, and turn it into weapon or shield. That's the next act in this blue ballet. And so we dive deeper into the next chapter, where dolphins hunt like jet-powered tacticians and group dynamics become underwater warfare. Because the ocean's speed demons aren't just racers, they're strategists. Beneath the polished shimmer of the surface, the blue deepens. What looks like an endless void to us is, to dolphins, a living chessboard, a world humming with signals, pulses, formations, and invisible lines of communication. Down here in this moving cathedral of light and shadow, speed is not an individual gift. It's a shared instinct. A symphony of coordinated muscles, sonar whispers, and split-second decisions. And at the center of this harmony, a pod of dolphins slices through the water like a school of guided torpedoes, not just swift, but strategic. They don't swim, they orchestrate. The morning sea is hushed, save for the occasional hiss of waves breathing against the current. In the distance, a faint crackle, the murmur of snapping shrimp, gives a false sense of calm. But suddenly that stillness unravels as a dozen grey shadows dart beneath, moving with synchronized grace just meters below the surface. The dolphins are on the hunt. What begins as a wide, relaxed formation quickly tightens into a pattern so precise it would make a military tactician jealous. Flankers sweep the sides, pushing toward the middle, while the leaders push forward, probing the dark for flickers of life. They're not guessing. They're mapping. Echolocation pulses ripple out from their bulbous foreheads, known as melons, a biological sonar device capable of reading the sea like a 3D ultrasound. With each click, they visualize their environment in astonishing detail. The shape of a fish, the density of a coral head, even the heartbeat of a hiding octopus. But more importantly, they can tell each other what they see. Information isn't just received, it's broadcast. A dolphin pod is a high-speed hydrodynamic think tank. Their prey, a loose, frantic school of sardines, is about to learn the hard way that in the open ocean, being small and numerous isn't always enough. The pod encircles them not with brute force, but with geometry. Dolphins curve their path into crescents, pushing the fish tighter into a bait ball, forcing them upward into a vulnerable mass of panic. Then the real dance begins. One dolphin darts through the shimmering silver sphere, jaw agape, slicing out a mouthful of confusion. Another sweeps low, causing ripples that scatter stragglers, only to have them picked off by a dolphin waiting like a striker near the edge of the play. The hunt doesn't just feed, it entertains. There is, hidden beneath all this strategy, a strange joy in the violence. Dolphins are, in a way, oceanic paradoxes, warm-blooded mammals wrapped in perpetual motion, with a sense of play that seems at odds with their efficiency. They surf waves they don't need to. They chase each other through kelp forests in races that serve no evolutionary purpose. They blow bubbles like underwater graffiti artists, sculpting rings of air and weaving through them with acrobatic flair. And yet when the time comes, they can switch from jesters to generals in the blink of an eye. Their speed, though remarkable, reaching up to 37 miles per hour in bursts, is not their most impressive trait. What sets them apart is how they apply that speed in bursts of unpredictability. One moment they're charging forward, the next spinning sideways to disorient their prey. In the high-pressure world of ocean predators, the straight line is often the death of creativity. The dolphin excels because it improvises. And they must. The ocean is not theirs alone. Shadowing the edge of their territory is a darker form. A shark, perhaps a bull shark, trailing in silence, nose twitching for the scent of blood. A young dolphin, if separated, is fair game, but the pod doesn't panic, it pivots. In a dazzling flash of aquatic choreography, the group contracts. The juveniles are ushered into the center, while the adults form a ring. Not out of fear, but out of experience. Sharks may be stealthy, but dolphins are faster in short bursts and far more agile. They can outmaneuver a shark in close quarters, leaping above it, striking it with bone-hard snouts, even driving it away in coordinated ramming attacks that leave predators stunned and bruised. And sometimes, just sometimes, a pod will harass a shark for sport, chasing it, taunting it, reminding it who really commands this domain. It's an ironic inversion of the food chain, one that echoes through evolutionary time. A shark is built to kill. A dolphin is built to outsmart the killer. Their social intelligence extends beyond tactics. Dolphins have regional accents, cultural habits, even signature whistles, names essentially, that they respond to across miles of sea. Calves learn the hunting formations not by instinct alone, but by observation, shadowing their elders until the motions become second nature. They are, in essence, a school within a school, a living tradition passed through generations of speed, sound, and social finesse. But this harmony is not without its drama. Dolphins form alliances within pods, sometimes turning on each other in complex dominance games. Rival pods may clash over territory, fish-rich zones, or even mates, with fast chases, headbutts, and tail slaps echoing beneath the waves like drums of war. The ocean is their playground, but it's also their battlefield. Even among nature's cleverest swimmers, power is never uncontested. As the sun begins to set, casting long beams through the cobalt canopy, the pod slows. Not from exhaustion, but calculation. They've eaten, evaded, communicated, competed. Now, with one hemisphere of their brain alert and the other resting, they drift, moving like ghosts just beneath the surface. Unlike most creatures, dolphins sleep in motion, one eye always watching. Even in dreams, they are ready to race. But something stirs in the distance, a vibration, faint but rhythmic, like a drumbeat rising from the abyss. It's not prey, not a shark, something larger, deeper, and far more thunderous. The dolphins peel away effortlessly. They've sensed something coming, a different kind of speed. One less intelligent perhaps, but no less terrifying in its single-minded power. Because not all high-speed chasers think in sonar or strategy. Some just ambush. And in the next chapter we meet them. The tuna, the sailfish, the underwater blades that don't dance. They strike. Beneath the surface of the open sea, far from the coral castles and kelp thickets, lies a wilderness that stretches unbroken in every direction. No shelter, no boundaries, just a rolling infinity of blue. It is here, in the emptiest part of the ocean, that one of its most relentless travelers begins its long journey. The sun glints above, warming the surface with golden light, but the depths remain cold, pressing, and indifferent. In this endless nowhere, speed alone is not enough. What matters more is endurance, and no creature exemplifies that brutal truth more than the tuna. There is no warm-up for the tuna. It doesn't dawdle, doesn't drift. From the moment it hatches as a larva barely larger than a grain of rice, it begins to swim, and it never truly stops. A blur of silver and muscle, the adult tuna powers through the sea like a living engine, its body honed not for bursts or trickery, but for relentless, unforgiving motion. Unlike most fish, it can't hover in place. It must keep moving forward to breathe, to live, to be. In a world where even pausing can mean suffocation, the tuna is an athlete in perpetual motion, locked in an unending race against hunger, temperature, and tide. Its design speaks volumes. The body is thick, torpedo-shaped, and solid with muscle, not sleek like a dolphin's, but dense, almost industrial. This is not a race car. This is a locomotive with gills. The skin, metallic and glistening, reflects light in a way that dazzles the eye. Not just for camouflage, but for confusion. A flickering illusion that makes it difficult for predators or prey to predict its path. But it's what lies beneath the shimmering surface that makes the tuna something truly extraordinary. Its blood runs hot. Yes, the tuna is a warm-blooded fish, a biological oddity in a realm of cold-blooded swimmers. Through a specialized heat exchange system known as rete mirabile, it maintains a body temperature higher than the surrounding water. This internal furnace allows its muscles to stay warm and ready, even in colder regions of the sea where others would slow, stiffen, or simply perish. It's like strapping a heater to a racehorse and setting it loose in the Arctic. The tuna doesn't just endure the cold, it turns it into an advantage. Cold waters hold more oxygen, and warm muscles move faster. The tuna somehow gets both. As it cruises through the midwater blue, the world around it shifts constantly. 1 hour it rides a current born off the Japanese coast, the next it surges through the tropical lanes of the Pacific, and then, with no ceremony, it plunges into the frigid Atlantic on its way to a distant spawning ground. Tuna don't travel hundreds of miles, they travel thousands. Some have been tracked migrating from Mexico to Japan, a journey of 5,000 miles without rest, not by wandering, by charging. And yet, for all its brute persistence, the tuna doesn't rush blindly. It reads the sea like a map. Temperature gradients, salinity changes, the subtle song of ocean currents, all become navigational cues. It tunes its journey not just by instinct but by sensitivity that borders on miraculous. Some species, like the Pacific bluefin, even exhibit transoceanic homing, returning to the very same coastline where they hatched, as if drawn by memory etched in muscle and marrow. A creature with no hands, no voice, no home, guided only by pulse and pressure, and yet it finds its way. But even this iron swimmer has a nemesis, resistance. Water is a cruel medium to move through. Every increase in speed demands exponentially more effort. So the tuna cheats in the most elegant way. Its muscles are divided into two main types, red and white. The red for steady cruising, the white for sudden acceleration. But the red dominates. Laced with oxygen-rich blood and fed by a massive heart, these muscles work like the pistons of a diesel engine, pumping tirelessly. While a marlin may blast forward and fade, the tuna keeps going, hour after hour, day after day, feeding only to fuel the machine. And feed it must. The tuna eats like a furnace burns coal. Sardines, squid, mackerel, even other small tuna, all vanish into its cavernous mouth. Its jaws are hinged for speed feeding, its gills vast and feathered for high-volume respiration. A tuna is not a picky eater. It's a predator with deadlines. Everything it does is dictated by the brutal math of motion. Move fast, burn fuel, eat more, move faster. And somewhere between all this, it must also reproduce. A biological marathon layered inside a logistical nightmare. Ironically, its strength is also its vulnerability. The tuna's need to constantly swim leaves it exposed. Without reefs or rocks to hide behind, it becomes a target for sharks, orcas, and even faster ambush hunters like sailfish. But it has one advantage. When chased, the tuna doesn't just flee, it outlasts. While a shark may surge forward in a dramatic attack, it tires. The tuna does not. Its muscles are cooled and warmed in such perfect harmony that even fear cannot exhaust it quickly. A tuna survives not by escaping faster, but by staying fast longer. And therein lies the paradox. The tuna, the ultimate symbol of ceaseless motion, has no territory, no fixed home, no static comfort. Its safety is speed. Its identity is distance. Where other animals claim dominion over a reef, a wreck, a tide pool, the tuna's domain is measured in horizons. Every day is a journey. Every meal a pit stop. Every shadow could be death. But it keeps going. Not because it wants to, because it must. There's a quiet tragedy to such perfection. The tuna is built to conquer oceans, and yet it is relentlessly hunted by forces it cannot outswim. Giant bluefins, capable of speeds that rival dolphins and migrations that span the globe, vanish not beneath the waves, but under pressure from species far less streamlined, the ones that don't swim at all. But this is not a story about them. This is the tuna's moment, and it is still running. And it is not alone. For in the next stretch of this blue marathon, something stranger prepares to take flight, not through currents, but above them. A creature that doesn't just swim fast, it abandons the sea entirely. Because when speed fails, some fish decide to leave the ocean behind, if only for a moment. And so our next racer isn't the one that wins the race underwater, it's the one that escapes it by soaring through the air. The sun pierces the ocean's skin in scattered beams, dancing across the surface like liquid fire. Far below, where light begins to soften and dissolve into bluish silence, a race is about to unfold. Not staged, not coordinated, but written into the bones and muscle of its competitors. This isn't a sprint you'll see from the shore. It's not marked by flags or fanfare. The Ocean Grand Prix is ancient, relentless, and invisible to all but the hunters and the hunted. Here, speed isn't a statistic. It's a sentence of life or death, hunger or survival, pursuit or escape. And the contenders, they wear no numbers, but they are champions all the same. At the front of this phantom racetrack surges a legend cloaked in black and white, the orca. Massive and calculating, the orca doesn't so much race as invade. It is the apex among apexes, a hunter wrapped in charisma and muscle, known more for its brain than its bursts. Yet when pressed, when the strike demands it, the orca can move with unsettling quickness, surging through the sea at up to 30 miles per hour, its body trailing a thunderous spiral of bubbles and sound. But while its speed is formidable, it is not constant. The orca is more a tactician than a sprinter, capable of sudden surges, of ambushes crafted with chilling precision, but lacking the streamlined economy of smaller fish. It is the heavyweight of the race, powerful, but not built for the corners. Then comes the dolphin, sleek and silver like liquid mercury. Not the largest, nor the flashiest, but perhaps the most elegant of racers. It moves as though it has never known friction, body curving with every turn, tail pumping in rhythmic pulses that seem effortless. The common dolphin can match 35 miles per hour in short bursts, but its real weapon is acceleration. From idle to full throttle in less than a heartbeat, it dodges, darts, dances through the water with a kind of joyful violence. Agility is its edge. Not just speed in a straight line, but the ability to twist, leap, and pivot through watery corridors that would send larger predators crashing into confusion. If the race were held on a slalom course, the dolphin would be crowned king before the second turn. And then, slicing in like a lightning bolt, comes the sailfish. Flashing with iridescent blue, its body narrow and sharp as a dagger, it is a streak in the ocean more than a form. With a record-breaking burst of up to 75 miles per hour, the sailfish is the Usain Bolt of the deep, explosive, almost unbelievable in its velocity. But its flame is brief. That speed can only be held in microbursts, a few seconds of underwater ignition before the limits of biology push back. The sailfish is a sprinter born of necessity, evolved to deliver precise surgical strikes to disoriented prey. its spear-like bill slashing through bait balls with theatrical flair. If speed were judged by peak performance alone, the sailfish would leave the others trailing in its wake, dazzled and defeated. Trailing just behind, though not by much, the tuna returns to the scene, but this time not as a marathoner. Now it's a contender. The bluefin tuna, brawny and battle-ready, can reach 50 miles per hour and hold steady for astonishing stretches. It lacks the elegance of the dolphin and the explosive flair of the sailfish, but what it offers instead is frightening reliability. It is a machine in a world of performers, the one that never stops, never slows, never questions. It wins races by never leaving the track. And while the others may surge ahead in dramatic bursts, the tuna simply waits. Eventually, the sprinters will tire, and when they do, the iron swimmer will still be there, churning forward, unblinking. But then, above the fray, something extraordinary happens. A shimmer breaks the surface. Not a splash, not a breach, but a launch. From beneath, a flying fish erupts into the air, tail whipping in quicksilver flutters, pectoral fins flaring open like the wings of a dragonfly. It glides, not with the elegance of a bird, but with the desperation of something that refuses to be caught. Above water, it coasts at 35 miles per hour, covering up to 200 meters in a single flight, more than some birds achieve in one swoop. And when gravity pulls it down, it doesn't surrender. It slaps the water with its tail and launches again, like a skipping stone with a will to live. The flying fish isn't the fastest underwater, but in a race where the rules bend, where one contender abandons the medium entirely, its ingenuity earns a spot on the podium. Sometimes, to win the race, you have to leave the course. So who wins? It depends on the event. The sailfish dominates in the 100-meter dash, blurring past its rivals in a blink. The dolphin rules the obstacle course, weaving through complexity like a needle through silk. The tuna owns the ultramarathon, unfazed by time or distance. The orca crushes the tactical pursuit, outthinking and outflanking its prey with brute strategy. And the flying fish? It wins the wild card, the escape act that rewrites the playbook altogether. But perhaps the real twist in the Ocean Grand Prix is this: speed alone is never the full story. In these waters, the fastest doesn't always win. The one who survives isn't necessarily the quickest, but the cleverest with their quickness. Every racer here is built for a different stage of the same performance. One for pursuit, one for escape, one for endurance, one for the skies. And just beyond them, in the next chapter of our voyage, we meet a creature that defies even these categories. A being that uses speed not for escape or chase, but for transformation. It doesn't just flee danger, it becomes something else entirely. A fish that flies, already seen. But what about a fish that turns motion into illusion, escaping by vanishing in plain sight? We dive next into the realm of the ocean's greatest escape artist, the flying fish, and discover how nature rewrote the rules of swimming by letting go of water altogether. The ocean at dawn is a mirror, still, breathless, almost too perfect. Its surface stretches to the edge of the sky, brushed with the softest strokes of rose and gold. But beneath this illusion of calm lies the constant churn of tension, the slow winding of invisible springs. Somewhere below, something hungry waits. And above, drifting with the winds, the heavens remain unaware that an ancient drama is about to breach the boundary between sea and sky. From the shallows near a reef slope, a ripple flutters across the water, subtle at first, like a whisper of breeze. Then, without warning, the surface erupts. Not in the crashing leap of a dolphin or the ambush lunge of a marlin, but in a sudden launch, clean and explosive. A silver shape arcs into the air, trailing droplets that catch the morning light like shattered glass. Its wings unfurl mid-flight, not feathered but finned, stretched wide and paper-thin, shimmering with translucent hues. The flying fish has taken off, and behind it, a torpedo of scales and teeth misses by inches. For this fish, speed is only the beginning. Where others escape with acceleration or sharp turns, the flying fish flees in 3 dimensions. It doesn't just swim faster than its predators. It abandons the water entirely, shifting the rules of the game with a single desperate act. In the split second before a predator's jaws snap shut, the flying fish hits maximum speed underwater, up to 35 miles per hour, then angles sharply upward and lashes its powerful crescent-shaped tail against the water, as if trying to slap the sea itself. In a frenzy of propulsion, it breaks free from the drag of the deep and becomes something else entirely, a missile with wings. Its pectoral fins, elongated into flaps resembling the wings of a dragonfly, catch the air and lock into place. What follows is not a fall, it's a glide. Like a living paper airplane, the flying fish sails over the sea, skimming above the waves for distances that seem absurd for such a small creature. 100 meters, sometimes more than 200. It banks gently with the wind, adjusts its angle by shifting its wing fins, and when it feels gravity begin to drag it down, it doesn't simply surrender. With a few sharp slaps of its tail on the water's surface, like someone running across hot sand, it propels itself upward again, extending its escape in bounces across the sea like a skipping stone fleeing fate. To the predators below, tuna, dorado, mackerel, this sudden transformation is maddening. They are built for bursts, for chases, for tightly choreographed strikes within the rules of the sea. But the flying fish doesn't just break the rules, it rewrites them mid-pursuit. One moment, it's prey. The next, it's a ghost, hovering above danger, floating just beyond reach. A fish pretending to be a bird, if only for a few breaths. Nature, it seems, has a sense of humor. But this comical defiance hides a story of deadly necessity. Flying fish are small, most less than a foot long, and nearly everything larger than them sees them as a snack. They lack venom. They have no armor. They are soft-bodied, easily digested, and delicious by ocean standards. Their only real weapon is panic turned into propulsion. In shallower waters near coral slopes and island chains, the risk of ambush is constant. Predators don't announce their arrival. They appear like shadows out of nowhere, rushing from below with jaws wide and hunger sharp. And so, the flying fish must always be ready to launch, not by instinct alone, but with muscle memory forged in generations of genetic survival drills. Its body is an aerodynamic contradiction, too heavy for sustained flight, too light for deep diving. But in the awkward in-between, it thrives. Its bones are stiffened, its belly flattened, and its wing fins carefully ribbed for optimal lift. Some species even sport enlarged pelvic fins, giving them 4 wings and greater control, the closest thing the ocean has to a glider pilot. They use their speed like a fuse and their wings like a parachute. The result is an escape artist that, while lacking claws or camouflage, has mastered the fine art of being gone when it counts. But even in the sky, danger follows. Seabirds, frigates, gulls, and boobies patrol the open air like aerial pickpockets. To them, the flying fish's miracle is simply a takeout order served mid-air. If a fish flies too high, too slow, or too predictably, it may find itself plucked from the sky in a cruel twist of irony. The very trick that saved it from jaws below now handing it to beaks above. Survival is never guaranteed. But for the flying fish, every second aloft is a second earned, a precious moment bought with sheer kinetic will. And then there are the storms. Tropical seas are seldom calm for long. Squalls rise with terrifying speed, wind shear shifts the air into turbulence, and waves heave like living mountains. In such chaos, the flying fish must not only see where to flee but calculate how to land. A poor angle could send it crashing back into the waiting mouths of its pursuers. A misjudged arc could slam it into a rising wave and stun it just long enough to be devoured. Precision becomes everything. Flight plans written in fin twitches and tail thrusts. Their glides may seem peaceful from above, but every moment aloft is a calculation of terror and timing. And yet, despite this, the flying fish sometimes launches even when no threat is visible. Why? Perhaps it's residual fear. Or perhaps, and here nature flirts with absurdity, they do it for sheer exuberance. A panic reflex evolved into a performance. After all, once you've learned to escape death by flying, why not do it again just to feel the wind? As night falls over the tropical sea, the surface begins to glow faintly with bioluminescence, and the flying fish become silhouettes against the stars. At this hour they are most vulnerable, when vision fades and the rules of the sea shift once again. Below, the dark holds new predators, ones that hunt by pressure and vibration, not by sight. But above, the moonlight still beckons. And so, even in darkness, the flying fish leaps, a silver arrow fired blindly into the black, hoping that speed alone is still enough. And yet in the vast theater of the sea there are those who don't leap, don't chase, don't outlast. They ambush. With silence, with stealth, with sudden slicing speed. In the next chapter, we descend again into the path of a killer that doesn't dance, doesn't circle, doesn't plan. It waits, and then it strikes. A master of the quick kill, dressed in shimmer and shadow. The sailfish is coming. In the cold waters of the far north, where the sun crawls low across the horizon and the air bites with salt and frost, the ocean becomes a battlefield of whispers and waves. Ice drifts in broken slabs, cracking and groaning like ancient bones. Fog coils above the surface, hiding the theater of a hunt already in motion. Beneath the steel-grey sea, the orcas, black and white ghosts, move with an eerie stillness, their great bodies barely disturbing the water. But that calm is a lie. Because when the time comes, these torpedoes of muscle and strategy will ignite with a ferocity that shatters the quiet like a thunderclap underwater. They are not aimless. They are not wandering. Every flick of their powerful tails, every sonar click, every subtle roll of their immense bodies, it all builds toward a single crescendo, the blitz. In this ocean arena, speed is not merely for movement, it is weaponized. Orcas don't just chase, they calculate. And then, when everything aligns, they strike with the precision of missiles and the force of underwater explosions. A pod of orcas begins its hunt, not with violence, but with choreography. They fan out like a fleet of silent submarines, scanning the depths with echolocation. A biological sonar system so refined, they can detect the difference between a fish's swim bladder and a chunk of ice. And yet they do not move as individuals. They are a team in the truest sense, coordinating, adapting, signaling with body posture and ultrasonic clicks, building a strategy in real time. The quarry today, a small cluster of herring shimmering in tight formation like a nervous cloud of silver needles. But the herring have their own strategy. Safety in numbers, spinning and tightening into a bait ball, confusing their predators with blinding flashes of overlapping scales. It's a defense that works well against most attackers. Against the orcas, it's a delay tactic at best, because the orcas begin to herd. With shocking speed, the pod darts forward, one orca at a time, slicing across the ball to break its shape. Another follows behind, slapping its tail hard against the water, stunning fish with a concussive burst that turns confusion into stillness. Tiny bodies float dazed, and then vanish into gaping jaws. It's not a chaotic frenzy. It's tactical dismantling. Like wolves of the sea, they work in roles. Some intimidate, some isolate, some strike, all lethal. And when the water churns with fish scales and foam, the orcas do something unexpected. They pause. Hovering like zeppelins in the gloom, they let their meal settle before continuing, as if savoring the silence between each act of the performance. But these blitzes aren't limited to schooling fish. Sometimes the hunt plays out above the surface, quite literally. On the frozen fringes of the polar sea, the ice floes become stages for another orca trick, the wave attack. A lone seal, hauled out and resting on a slab of ice, scans the horizon. There's no visible danger. The water looks calm. But below, a pod of orcas has spotted the flow, and the plan is already in motion. They swim in tight formation side by side, building up speed like synchronized torpedoes. At the last second, they dive under the edge of the ice and push, heaving a rolling wave that tilts the flow just enough to send the seal sliding off into the water. It's over before the seal even registers what's happening. Few predators on Earth engineer their own waves, and fewer still use them like hammers. But orcas are not most predators. Even more chilling is their understanding of terrain. In some regions, particularly off the coast of Argentina, orcas have been observed launching themselves onto the beach in pursuit of sea lion pups. It's a breathtaking display of recklessness and control. The orca surges toward the shore, riding a wave at top speed, twisting its body just right so it grounds itself on the sand, grabs its prey, and then waits for the next swell to pull it back out to sea. The margin for error is razor thin. Mistime the wave, and the hunter becomes stranded. But these orcas know the coast like we know our own kitchens. They've mapped it with their minds, memorized the rhythm of waves, and passed the knowledge down through generations. This isn't instinct, it's culture. Predation as a tradition. Their anatomy is built for this kind of violence. Anatomy. Beneath their iconic black and white camouflage lies a machine of coiled power, a tail fluke that can propel 6 tons of killer whale through the sea like a launched torpedo, a top speed of over 30 miles per hour, and jaws strong enough to crack the skull of a great white shark. Even their brains are weaponized, large, complex, and deeply social. They recognize each other, learn from one another, and exhibit what can only be described as personality, boldness, patience, cunning. In some pods, individuals specialize in certain hunting roles, like midfielders and strikers on a soccer team, and these roles aren't fixed by instinct. They're chosen, learned, practiced. Despite their power, orcas are not always the aggressors. They are not invincible. Calves, when separated, can fall prey to sharks or die from the cold. Lone or injured adults may struggle to find prey. And rival pods sometimes clash, not just for food, but for dominance, territory, even access to mating grounds. These underwater duels can last for hours, a series of high-speed chases, deep dives and standoffs that blur the line between fight and dance. And yet the orca's greatest strength may not be its muscle or mind, but its flexibility. Unlike most marine predators, orcas are generalists. They adapt their hunting style to the region, the season, even the specific prey. In Norway, they herd herring. In Patagonia, they beach hunt sea lions. In Antarctica, they break ice to reach penguins. Each pod develops its own techniques, dialects, and traditions, a form of regional culture passed on not by genes, but by teaching. It's as if every oceanic population of orcas is its own tribe, a unique combination of experience and ingenuity, shaped by the sea and sharpened by time. As the pod slips away into the darkening water, their wake settles, and the silence returns. But it feels different now. The surface is still. The ice floats quietly. The herring scatter. Yet the memory of speed lingers. You can almost hear the thunder underwater, the sound of motion turned into might. The orca blitz is over, but the sea has not forgotten it. And it won't be the last, because the ocean has more than speed demons. It has tacticians, assassins, escape artists, and creatures that make speed itself a weapon, wielded with grace and fury. But in this deadly race for survival, there are also those who do not sprint or strike. They trap. They build puzzles in the current, confuse their prey with coordinated confusion, and turn movement into a maze. Next, we enter the realm of strategy disguised as chaos, where predators move like a swarm, hunt as one, and never ever stop until the last fish falls. Because now come the killers who wear confusion like camouflage, the speed strategists, the pack planners, the ocean's most relentless schemers. The sea is not a gentle place. Beneath its surface, ballet of drifting jellies and floating sunlight, lies a universe ruled by violence, swift, silent, and often over in less than a heartbeat. In this realm, predators have evolved not just to move fast, but to weaponize that movement. Here, speed is no longer a means to reach. It is a force designed to destroy. The ocean's deadliest creatures do not always announce their presence with teeth or toxin. Some of them kill with momentum alone. Out in the cobalt blue openness of the tropical sea, a school of sardines moves like a single shimmering body, twisting and folding upon itself with liquid precision. It is a ballet born of necessity, each fish tuned to the flick of its neighbor's tail, survival encoded in synchrony. But somewhere in the periphery, a shape begins to blur into focus. Not by size, not by sound, but by the distortion of the water itself. The sailfish is approaching. With a body engineered for penetration and a bill sharp as a rapier, the sailfish doesn't stalk, it ambushes at speed. Clocking in at over 60 miles per hour, it doesn't so much chase its prey as slice through the water like a thrown knife. It comes in not from behind, but across, flashing into the bait ball in a diagonal slash, its elongated upper jaw trailing beside it like a silver blade. But it doesn't bite. It flicks. With uncanny precision, it lashes out with its sword-like bill, tapping and slicing at fish mid-sprint. Some are knocked senseless, others torn outright. The sailfish doesn't need to catch them all, just scatter them. Confusion is the appetizer. Death is what comes next. And then, almost in mockery of the carnage, the sailfish retracts its towering dorsal fin, the signature sail that once gave it its name, folding it flat along its spine to reduce drag. Even its own display is sacrificed for the sake of acceleration. This is a predator that hides its brilliance in favor of killing a fraction of a second faster. Not far away, another assault is unfolding, less elegant, more brutal. A pod of dolphins moves through deeper water, chasing mackerel that dart in zigzag patterns like panicked fireworks. But the dolphins don't just follow. They communicate, recalibrate, and strike with a kind of joyously brutal efficiency. One dolphin breaks formation and peels off to the side, flanking the fish as if rounding up cattle. Another charges forward, not to bite, but to ram. With a burst of energy, it slams into its prey with the hardened tip of its rostrum, a blow powerful enough to shatter the ribcage of a small fish. It's not a nibble. It's a body check at 30 miles per hour, a weaponized snout driven by 800-pound muscle. The dolphin doesn't stop to celebrate. It knows that the ocean doesn't wait. Already its companions are diving deeper, herding the survivors upward toward the surface, where the sky above becomes a false escape and the killing begins anew. Sometimes dolphins will stun prey and let it sink slightly, then return to it later once the resistance has drained from its body. They are patient assassins, dressed in smiles. But not all speed kills in open water. Sometimes it comes from below, from the darkness, from silence itself. In the muted gloom of the mid-water twilight zone, where light barely filters down and the world turns murky blue, a barracuda hovers like a living harpoon. Its body is a frozen missile built not for endurance but for the 5-meter sprint. When its prey comes close, an unaware snapper drifting just a little too confidently, the barracuda doesn't twitch, doesn't flex. It explodes. In the blink of an eye, it surges forward in a straight line, teeth bared, jaws opening only milliseconds before impact. At these speeds, suction becomes a weapon in itself, the water rushing into its mouth, pulling the fish inward like a vacuum. 1 second, the snapper is whole. The next, it is gone in pieces. And then, at the surface again, another kind of predator reveals how speed doesn't just kill, it manipulates. The thresher shark, rarely spoken of with the same reverence as great whites or hammerheads, hides its secret in its tail. Over half its body length, the upper lobe of its caudal fin looks comically exaggerated, until the moment it strikes. Herding small fish with its body, the thresher swims in tight circles, feigning slowness. Then, without warning, it lunges forward and whips its tail over its head like a scythe, striking with a speed so fast that the sound travels before the image registers. A single strike can kill or stun dozens of fish. It doesn't bite. It backhands its prey into oblivion. A predator that kills not with its mouth, but with a lash of its own propulsion. Even the humble marlin, often confused for the sailfish, employs speed not just for pursuit, but for deception. Its approach is sudden, its charge exaggerated, creating shockwaves that ripple through prey schools and force individuals into instinctual, fatal overreactions. It uses the water itself as a psychological weapon. In the ocean, panic is often more deadly than precision. But perhaps the strangest kill comes from a fish that barely seems real, the mantis shrimp. Though no more than the length of a banana, its raptorial appendages strike faster than a bullet leaving a handgun. These spring-loaded limbs, powered by elastic energy stored in saddle-shaped structures, release with such velocity that they boil the surrounding water in cavitation bubbles. These bubbles collapse with micro-shock waves, meaning even if the strike misses, the resulting blast can still incapacitate the target. Its speed so extreme it breaks physics. One could argue the mantis shrimp doesn't just kill with speed, it kills with space-time. But all of this comes at a cost. Speed demands energy. It risks injury. A mistimed strike wastes precious calories. A failed ambush leaves the predator exposed. The sea has no sympathy for clumsiness. Those who rely on velocity must master the art of restraint, waiting for the perfect moment when muscle, movement, and intention align in an explosion that is both brutal and beautiful. And so, across this aquatic world, speed has become more than motion. It is a blade, a hammer, a whip, a deception, molded into form by millions of years of trial and error. It's not just about who moves fastest, it's about who knows when to move, when to surge, when to swerve, when to strike. In this theater of blood and bubbles, speed is not a race, it is a kill move. But while speed can end a life, it can also preserve it. Because for every predator with cutting speed, there are prey who have learned to outmaneuver it, not by being faster, but by being clever. In the next chapter, we dive into this high-stakes strategy game beneath the waves, where escape isn't just about flight. It's about outthinking the chasers in a world where milliseconds mean everything. The sea, for all its size, is a crowded place. It teems with motion, layered like a living orchestra, fast above, slow below, synchronized all around. And yet, within this blue jungle of swimmers and strikers, there lies a quiet truth. The fastest don't always survive, and the strongest don't always eat. Because in this realm, speed is not merely a matter of how fast you move, it's how you move. And when life hangs in the balance of milliseconds, motion becomes a language of strategy, deception, and improvisation. Beneath the shimmering surface of a tropical sea, where the sun glitters like shattered gold across the waves, a tuna makes its decision. It doesn't hesitate. It can't. One moment it swims alongside others, part of a glimmering school slicing through the water like a moving blade. The next, a shadow curves across the sand beneath them. A predator has arrived. Not a brute charger, but something subtler. A mako, perhaps, or a striped marlin slipping through the current like a ghost wearing teeth. But the tuna doesn't flee in a straight line. That would be suicide. The ocean's best predators are ambush specialists. They expect straight lines.
Instead, the tuna zigs left, slashes right, dips down, then arcs upward in a tight spiral. It's not panicking, it's plotting.
Every juke and jab throws off the rhythm of its pursuer, interrupting the calculation of trajectory, denying the predator the clean geometry of a kill. Like a fighter pilot in a dogfight, the tuna flies its own chaos, playing with current, depth, and angle like tools in a survival kit. It's called reactive escape. Not a panic response, but a constantly adapting algorithm of survival, running through nerves and muscle at lightning speed. Studies have shown that some species of tuna can process spatial changes almost as fast as the predators chasing them, adjusting their speed and direction based on the flow of the entire school. It's a high-speed game of don't be the slowest, but with mathematical finesse. And if you're lucky, or smart, the predator tires first. Elsewhere, in colder waters beneath a rising tide, dolphins are engaged in an entirely different game. A school of anchovies, densely packed, sparkles beneath them in a synchronized blur. But the dolphins don't dive in immediately. They circle, then circle again. Not for hesitation, but for manipulation. At first glance, it appears disorganized. A few dolphins peeling away, others darting under the school. But from a distance, the pattern reveals itself. A spiral, tightening, like a whirlpool stitched into flesh and scale. What's forming is a bait ball, a swirling vortex of panic and glitter, created not by the anchovies' design but by the dolphins. This is coordinated movement at its most calculated. Some individuals slap their tails to create pressure waves. Others dive from below to force the anchovies upward. The prey compresses into a ball, attempting to protect its edges by moving as one. But the dolphins want this. They're not chasing the ball, they're building it. Then comes the harvest. One dolphin rockets in at an angle, mouth open, teeth bared. Another follows seconds later from the opposite side. Like synchronized swimmers with a taste for fish, they take turns darting in and out, avoiding collision and maximizing efficiency. It's hunting in waves, each member of the pod attacking, retreating, then allowing another to take their place. There's no chaos here. It's a rotational strike, a buffet line of predators gliding at 35 miles per hour, each one knowing precisely when to act. But even predators must outsmart other predators. In some coastal regions, dolphins are observed adjusting their bait ball strategies when sharks arrive, splitting the school in two and directing one half toward the shallows while they distract the sharks with the other. Speed becomes a decoy. It's a magician's sleight of flipper, using the illusion of movement to mislead and confuse. The prey thinks it's escaping. The rival predator thinks it's chasing. And the dolphin, grinning like it knows something you don't, gets the meal. Yet it's not only dolphins and tuna that wield speed as strategy. In the open sea, tiny, unassuming fish called needlefish move at bursts that rival their more famous cousins. But rather than using that speed to catch prey, they use it to collide. In a twisted evolutionary plot, some needlefish species have evolved to turn their speed into a lance, impaling prey or rival fish in a drive-by assault that leaves little time for reaction. They don't chase, they puncture. But perhaps one of the most beguiling examples of speed strategy comes from a creature that seems at first too slow to qualify, the cuttlefish. Yes, the cuttlefish, that hypnotic shape-shifting cousin of the squid. At first glance, it pulses through the water with soft undulations, barely moving, its body rippling with psychedelic patterns. It doesn't look fast. It doesn't need to be. It lets you come close. Its camouflage draws you in, and then, In a blink, the tentacles shoot out faster than the eye can track, snagging prey in a vacuum strike that is over before your nervous system could even send a warning. Speed, in this case, is not sustained. It's stored, like lightning behind a smile. Motion in the sea, then, is not merely about getting from one place to another. It is the very grammar of life and death. Some animals use it like a scalpel, others like a flashbang. Some, like sardines, rely on their collective movement to simulate chaos, making it harder for predators to focus. And yet others, clever octopuses, sneaky flounders, use motion itself as the distraction, flaring limbs or kicking up sand to vanish in the middle of a predator's lunge. In this world, strategy lives in muscle, in the placement of fins, in the bend of a body before a strike. It is the shark that pretends to leave, only to loop around with a burst from below. It is the mackerel that dives toward the sun, using the glare as a shield. It is the humble shrimp that spins backward in a series of high-speed flips, not because it knows where it's going, but because confusion is the destination. So while the ocean may appear to favor the fast, it truly favors the wise in motion. The thinkers, the tacticians, the ones who can rewrite the ending of the chase by choosing a different route, angle, or tempo. In the underwater chessboard of survival, pawns can become kings if they know when to move and how. And yet, in all this strategic dance of survival, there remains one final chapter of the race we have yet to explore. A place where movement is no longer about flight or fight, where the current itself becomes the racetrack, where creatures don't just swim through water, but with it, mastering the tide, hitching rides on underwater highways, and turning Earth's ancient pulse into their personal engine. Next, we enter the fast lanes of the sea itself, a hidden network of speed made not of flesh, but of fluid. At the edge of the deep blue, nothing, where continents crumble into the abyss and light barely skims the skin of the water, the ocean begins to move with purpose. Not in the chaotic flickers of surface wind, nor in the tidal sighs that kiss the coasts, but in something older, grander, a planetary exhale drawn across millennia. Beneath the surface, invisible to the naked eye, vast rivers of seawater surge with a silent, unrelenting force. These are the high-speed highways of the deep. Currents, gyres, and jet streams so massive they could carry cities, and so influential they decide the fates of migrations, storms, and entire ecosystems. And within them, hitchhikers ride the flow like expert travelers who know exactly when to sprint and when to coast. Far below the sunlight's reach, a loggerhead turtle glides, barely moving her limbs. Her great domed shell drifts like a submarine's hull, passively carried by the Gulf Stream, that warm Atlantic artery that spins like a conveyor belt along the eastern seaboard of the Americas. It moves not with violence, but with a calm, relentless push, covering thousands of kilometers like a floating escalator. The turtle has no need to paddle. She conserves her energy, using it only when the stream shifts or forks. She's mastered a mode of migration that we, in all our technological glory, can only envy, letting the planet do the work. But she's not alone in this floating freeway. Below her, manta rays drift like dark kites, their wings undulating with the rhythm of breath. They are massive, up to 7 meters across, but they treat the current like a personal travel agent. By positioning themselves just right, they harness updrafts and eddies that lift and glide them forward without any frantic flapping. It's graceful, it's deliberate, and it's genius. Why burn fuel when the ocean will pull you like a ribbon across a globe-sized dance floor? The trick lies in understanding what cannot be seen. Ocean currents may appear invisible, but they are as structured as any highway system. The equatorial countercurrent, the kuroshio, the egulhas, each one a distinct path of temperature, salinity, and speed. Fish don't simply swim through these currents, they ride them. Juvenile eels, only the length of a paperclip, cross entire oceans on currents they've never seen but somehow always find. No maps, no mentors. Just an ancient genetic memory encoded in their sinew, telling them which way to drift and when to dive. And these currents are fast. The Gulf Stream, for example, can move at speeds of up to 2.5 meters per second. That's 9 kilometers per hour of effortless travel, faster than many sea creatures can sustainably swim. For a tuna chasing warmth in the winter, or a whale on a 1,000-kilometer journey to a breeding ground, such speed is salvation. Riding the current doesn't just get them there faster, it gets them there alive. But not all movement is horizontal. In certain corners of the ocean, strange upwellings occur. Plumes of cold, nutrient-rich water rising from the abyss like ghostly geysers. Animals time their movements with these upwellings, knowing that where the cold water surfaces, plankton blooms. And where plankton blooms, everyone else follows. Sardines gather in glittering swarms, predators converge, and the entire ecosystem temporarily rewires itself around a vertical jet stream of life. For something as small as a jellyfish, drifting upward in the current can be the difference between starvation and a buffet of micro-prey. Motion becomes not just a convenience, it becomes destiny. Even the humble seaweed has learned the value of movement. Sargassum, a floating golden algae, clumps together in massive mats, carried by surface currents like caravans through a desert. These mats become oases for hundreds of species. Juvenile fish, crabs, shrimp, and even baby sea turtles hide and hunt within their tangle. They're not static habitats. They're mobile cities, drifting on highways made of heat and wind, shaped by the moon and the turning of the earth. Currents don't simply help animals go fast, they help them go farther. Energy conserved means energy can be spent elsewhere, foraging deeper, escaping quicker, reproducing sooner. Some creatures even use currents to disguise their motion. By traveling with the flow, they leave no trail, no resistance, no sound to detect. Predators like the giant squid use this trick to approach prey silently from below, drifting upward with an upcurrent rather than swimming. A ghost, rising on the breath of the sea. But there's humor in this too. Consider the sunfish, that awkward, slow-flapping behemoth that looks like a pancake built by committee. The sunfish is one of the worst swimmers in the ocean. Its awkward body makes sustained motion a comedy of flails. And yet this creature migrates thousands of kilometers each year. How? It simply rides. It ascends to the surface, flaps just enough to enter a current, and then floats like a half-asleep balloon on the breeze. It has outsourced velocity to the sea itself. In the race for speed, the sunfish is the one sleeping in first class, while everyone else is sprinting on foot. The beauty of this strategy is that it doesn't always look impressive. It doesn't come with teeth or bursts or athletic leaps. It comes with timing, with understanding, with knowing that the ocean is not just something you pass through, it is something you use. And while the flashy predators may draw the spotlight, many of the ocean's greatest migrations, its most successful travelers, are those who barely move at all, or at least they let the sea move for them. But these highways come with danger. Where currents converge, predators gather. Where upwellings bloom, competition spikes. To ride the stream is to enter a funnel, one that may end in feast or in ambush. It's a gamble, a shortcut with shadows. And some creatures have evolved to ride only certain segments, hopping off when danger is highest and resuming when the coast is clear. Precision, not panic, guides their path. And yet sometimes the current betrays its passengers. In a warming world with shifting climates and melting poles, currents change course. What once took animals to food now takes them to deserts. A missed fork in the liquid road can spell starvation. Those who rely on the sea's highways must constantly adapt their maps, and sometimes rewrite them altogether. Still, the ocean rewards those who understand its rhythm. And for the clever, the still, the patient, these invisible rivers are more than mere motion. They are tools, weapons, and shelter. They are escape routes and ambush lanes, migration paths and secret corridors. The sea never stands still, and those who learn to move with it, rather than against it, often go farther than the swiftest sprinter. But as we near the final leg of this high-speed saga, the story narrows. Because not everyone reaches the finish line. In the vast, ruthless arena of speed and survival, what happens to those who fall behind? Who stumble in the chase? Who, despite all their cunning and strength, are just slower than what's hunting them? Next, we drift into that final, merciless truth. That in the ocean's endless race, there is no silver medal. There are only the winners and the forgotten. The ocean has no finish line, no red ribbons fluttering in the current, no golden trophies hoisted above coral podiums. But make no mistake, there is a race, and it is relentless. Day and night, from the shimmering surface to the twilight abyss, it unfolds in a choreography of motion, muscle, and instinct. In this high-stakes ballet, every twitch of the tail, every flick of a fin, is a wager against time. Here, victory is simple: survive, eat, reproduce, and failure vanishes in silence. leaving behind only scales in the water and stories unfinished. Dawn breaks over a wide expanse of open sea, the surface calm, glassy, deceptive. Beneath it, tension simmers. A school of mackerel pulses through the blue like a single living entity, each fish scanning the world through nervous reflex more than thought. They are not slow, far from it. But today, speed alone won't save them. From the shadows below, a marlin surges forward, drawn by instinct and opportunity. It doesn't attack the fastest fish. It doesn't need to. It targets the stragglers, the ones just a fraction slower, the ones nursing a damaged fin or a moment of hesitation. In a world measured in milliseconds, even a blink can be fatal. The ocean rarely punishes you for being slow outright. It punishes you for being just slower than the one beside you. For the marine iguana chased by a Galapagos shark, for the squid who misjudges its ink cloud, for the flying fish who hesitates 1 second too long before taking flight, there is no applause for effort. Evolution has no patience for almost. Even among predators, speed is status. The fastest orca gets the first bite of the kill. The most agile dolphin wins the prime position in the pod's formation. Among sailfish, those who can strike swiftly rise higher in the hierarchy, earning more access to food and mating partners. Power in the ocean is not always about dominance. Sometimes it's about velocity. The faster you are, the more decisions you get to make. The slower you are, the more you are subjected to the decisions of others. This brutal logic bleeds into every corner of the sea. Coral reef damsel fish, tiny and territorial, often chase off intruders with aggressive bursts of speed. But when larger predators invade, the same reflex sends them fleeing for cover, and not all make it. The ones that react first, that dive into the reef a split second sooner, live. The rest are taken in the blink of a barracuda's strike. Their fate isn't about strength or bravery, it's about timing. And yet the cost of falling behind isn't always death. Sometimes it's slow erasure. A species that can't match the shifting currents of a warming sea loses access to its feeding grounds. Fish that spawn in synchrony with the tides, but cannot swim quickly enough to new nursery sites, see their young stranded in barren waters. Even algae, yes, algae, drift with currents, and those too slow to ride the change are left in nutrient deserts, unable to bloom. In the ocean, even plants are racers. This quiet elimination plays out invisibly, and often tragically. The vaquita, the world's smallest porpoise, once sped through Mexico's Sea of Cortez, navigating with ease. But entangled in nets not designed for speed, its numbers dwindled. Not because it was slower than its predators, but because it couldn't escape the traps of a race it didn't choose to join. Speed isn't just a biological advantage anymore. It has become a defense against modern dangers the ocean never prepared for. Even sharks, masters of motion, are not immune. The thresher may whip with breathtaking agility. The mako may burst with terrifying acceleration. But if they hesitate too long between meals, if injury slows their pursuit, if age dulls their edge, they drop down the ladder quickly. Predators become scavengers, and scavengers in a competitive ecosystem sometimes become casualties. But the ocean is not without irony. Some of its slowest creatures have survived not through speed but through strategy. The green sea turtle, ponderous and awkward on land, becomes fluid and deliberate in the sea, choosing when to move and when to drift with currents. It survives not by outrunning danger, but by outweighting it. Likewise, the octopus, soft-bodied and vulnerable, rarely uses speed to escape. Instead, it vanishes in clouds of ink and disguise, slipping past conflict through illusion rather than exertion. In their world, cleverness buys what speed cannot. Still, these are exceptions that prove the rule. In the great pelagic plains, in the rolling battlegrounds of the open ocean, the race rarely forgives. The fastest get the first bite. The fastest make the migration. The fastest pass on their genes, sculpting the future into leaner, sharper, quicker silhouettes. Evolution favors motion like wind favors wings. It sharpens those who keep up. It forgets those who fall behind. And those who fall behind don't always die in spectacular fashion. Sometimes they drift, weakened, thinned, outcompeted by younger, swifter rivals. A solitary tuna, once king of the current, swims more slowly than it did a season ago. It misses the bait ball. It arrives late to the spawning grounds, and slowly, invisibly, it fades from the story. No splash, no blood, no dramatic conclusion. Just absence. This is the final cruelty of speed in the ocean. There is no sympathy for second place. Not in the chase, not in the escape, not in the chase after the chase. The race has no beginning and no end. It only has participants. Those who can keep up and those who can't. But in this race, there's a strange beauty too. Because in every burst of motion, every arc of a dolphin through the air or flash of a sailfish under the surface, we glimpse the living memory of every ancestor who outran something once. Every stroke, every leap, every twist is part of a legacy, not of survival alone, but of exquisite, relentless adaptation. In the ocean, to move is to matter. To move well is to write yourself into the next chapter. And so ends this journey through the ocean's fastest, not with a roar, but with a ripple. For in the sea, the winners leave no footprints, only wakes.